Hello folks, welcome back. We're going to be tying a pike fly today. It's going to be another bucktail, but I'm going to be using yak and nayat in these flies. I mean, nayats you've seen lots of times, but I don't think you've seen yak yet. So I'll explain why I'm using it during the tutorial. So this is going to be a pike fly, and it's about 6 inches long, and it's typically the size that I use most of the time. This one's a flash tail. You can tie it exactly the same way, but with less flash in there. Like this one here. This is like a firecracker colour scheme. Or you could really go all out and put long saddle feathers instead of the flash in the fly. And again, this is tied exactly the same way. This is for a customer that fishes for hoocho, or you know, this could be a saltwater fly as well, and replicate a mackerel or something like that. But today we're going to be, you know, keeping it pretty basic in terms of what we're doing, and flash tails always catch pike. So let's crack on. Okay, in the vise we've got an Arex Predator 610-20, and I've added some keel weight to the hook. So all it is medium Vinyards medium lead wire and 4mm glue lined shrink tubing. I think it's 4-in-1. That's what I found the best. It's solid, and it obviously, because it's glue in there, when you heat it, it melts around the lead and the wire, and it keeps it in place. So you don't need to wrap thread wraps around it to keep it there and then glue it afterwards. It's very quick to do, and I've not had any issues with teeth pulling this off yet. Just need to be careful when you're unhooking fish that you don't squash it with the pliers and damage it. So for thread we're using the usual GSP 100. This is a no brand GSP. I find it actually a little bit less slippery than some of the branded stuff, which I prefer. I've lightly wax it as usual to start the thread going, using just standard beeswax. So I put a thread base down. To in line with the barb of the hook. Now for the first time we're going to use some bucktail. I'm using the longest hairs that I have, which are typically in the middle. We don't want much. You need to tie sparse of bucktail if you can. Take the head and the butts out to the short fibres, and then just tidy those ends up. And before I put that down, I'm just going to put some glue down on top. You can use Apicap if you want to, but I prefer to use liquid fusion, as I don't stick to my fly. Just tidy those butts again. 3 or 4 loose turns on top, and just use your thumb to spread that bucktail round like that, and then pull tight. Just hold those. If you hold that bucktail, you won't spin then. There we go. So we're just looking for the tail, and the purpose of the tail is just to keep that flash away from the hook as much as possible. So as this is a flash tail, we're going to use Hedron standard flasher blue and silver. I find this the best stuff. It's really nice and limp, and you get lots of movement in the water. We'll take the full length. We just want to taper the ends a little bit. Which then tapers the other end, so we get a good, oops, not doing a very good job here. Now this is a 6-inch fly, so I want to make sure the 6 inches is around about to my handle here. I want to make sure it goes that far. That will do. Wrap it down and then fold over. Like that. So that's the flash tail. The next we're going to use a little bit of synthetic. I've got this no brand synthetic Canacolon. You've heard me talk about it before. Lots of people use it now. Lots of similar shop bought materials out there. I think I've said it 100 times. Steve Farabrand. It's one. Jerkbait Mania Pike. Jerkbait Mania Pike Skins. There's another one. It's all the same stuff. It's all similar. Right, if we want to add some, I'm not very organised today, I want to add some white flashaboo to this. I like a little bit of this in the fly. It really brings that white out. And then I've got some polar style flash. This is from a roll that I've spun up. Anything, you know, soft braided flashes, it doesn't matter. Or just leave the flash out altogether, it's up to you. You've got a flash tail, so you've got a flash in the fly, so you could just put the canacle on top. Really up to you. We make things up as we go along. Well, actually, so that's untrue. I fish flies and then I tweak them if I want to change them a little bit in the water, how they swim. I might add materials to prevent things fouling, that sort of stuff. So, you know, you could go freestyle, but very often there's a reason why I'm adding stuff. It's usually to resolve an issue. Now what I'm doing with this now, you can see I'm just splitting it and I'm bringing it down the sides. Just saves me tying another piece in underneath. Tying that down. Doesn't need to be super tidy. These are quick fishing flies. Well, quick for me. So next job is we're going to take some more bucktail. And we're going to tie it exactly the same way. So Deceiver style, this the start of this fly, and then we switch. I'll explain why in a minute. So that's nicely tapered. So we're taking a very sparse amount again, not many hairs in here. We want it not quite as long as the tail. 3 or 4 wraps over the top. Then use your thumb to push it round again. Make sure it goes all the way round. Like that. Hold your ends. If you don't hold your ends, they'll spin. And then, you know, you might not get the results you want. So hold your ends, pull tight. And bring your thread forward and then bring your thread back. And that way it locks it in place then. So we could have gone hollow here. But, you know, this is the angle I'm looking for. There's no point tying a hollow and then wasting all that thread to build a dam to bring it back here when that took me about 30 seconds. So, you know, sometimes folks tie hollow for the sake of tying hollow. You don't always need to do it. So we're going to take a little bit more synthetic. So we've got very little here, very sparse amount. We just don't, I can't emphasize enough that, you know, less is more. I've said it so many times, it's a bit boring now. Just build it up very sparsely, and then your fly won't look a bit back heavy then. So yeah, just think about the materials, and just, you know, you might think, oh, that's enough, but try using half of it, half of what you think is the right amount, and then see what the results are. You might be surprised. So I'm just putting a few strands of white and silver flash in here. In terms of flash, you can use whatever you want. It's really up to you. There's so many different flashes around now, and you know, so you choose. So again, we're going to tie that in. To create that sort of back and tail piece. And then we're going to separate that material and then wrap it down the sides. And that creates a bit of volume then in the fly if you wrap it down the sides as well. I come forward about 5 millimeters. Then we're going to tie hollow now. You could potentially tie it as Deceiver again and use bucktail that's has quite a lot of air in it, but I think in this particular instance I'm just going to tie a hollow. I know I am, because I've tied quite a few of these recently. I'll show you them in a minute. So here we go. So again, a very sparse amount. We want to measure that up to about here. So I'll take those ends off and add a drop of glue, as I do, as I go down the fly. I'll probably forget in a minute. I usually do. Okay, 3 or 4 loose wraps. Use your thumb to push it evenly either side. It's very difficult to explain this actually, but I'm pushing it down so it goes on the left and the right evenly, and that way your bucktail. And then what I'm doing now, once it gets once you've pushed it down, then you use your thumb and your forefinger, is it forefinger? I'm not sure, to squeeze it together, and then that pulls it around the bottom of the fly. So you get a good even distribution of bucktail. And then other people do it differently, but again, like I said, hold those butts and then pull tight, and it doesn't spin. And it stays where it's supposed to stay. There's no right or wrong way, it's whatever way you feel is more comfortable. And if you achieve the same results doing it another way, by all means do it. But this is just the way I do it, which for a long time now. Right, I'm waffling. Let's tie that dam down. So what I'm doing is time forward, time back, time forward, time back, time forward, time back, and that way that thread won't slip. If you find it slips, just add some wax or a drop of super glue. So time forward, time back to build that dam. I want quite a big dam here. There we go, that's about right, because I've got some materials to go to the top of that. Before I do that, I'm just going to add a few more strands of flash. So I'm adding some white, 2 strands of white, cut right down. I want them shorter as I move up. And in terms of flash control, a lot of people wrap it around the thread and tie it in. I just can't seem to get the hang of that, so I do it my way. Lay it on top, spread it around the sides. It looks more professional doing it the other way, I have to admit, but you know, we find a way. There we go, put it on top, tie it down. We're tying pike flies at the end of the day, we're not tying salmon flies. Right, so now we're going to add some yak. I don't think I've actually featured yak in my tutorials before. Now, yak is not that easy to get hold of, but Rupert Harvey Flies sells it through his website. Does a really good job dyeing it up. I dye my own for personal use. You know, a lot of this stuff, it gets imported from China, and it's obviously from other countries like Mongolia. So, but it's real yak tail, and it's got a nice stiffness to it, and the stiffness really helps on the backs of the flies, I found, to stop longer materials fouling around the hook. And this is why I'm using it really in this fly, and to add some coloration. So I'm just using a light sort of silver grey just to start darkening the back of this fly up. I'm tapering it, so I want that to go quite long. So I'm tying it in 60-40. I'm folding that back to lock it in place, because I don't want that. It's quite a slippery material and it will pull out if you're not careful. There we go. Next we're just going to add a bit of interest, like some gills, I like to call them. So we're going to add some orange strong fuzzy fibre. So I'm cutting 2 small inch pieces, again very sparse, you don't need a load of this, and I'm going to tie it in so it shows underneath the bucktail. See now, like that, so well, it will show less in a second when I go and do my last hollow tie. So for the top, for the final hollow, we can use 2 different colours. We're going to use a dark sort of medium dun, a medium dun, which is grey, sort of a darker grey, and I'm taking, it's quite a generous amount. We don't have long bucktail here, so it's probably, what's that, 3 inches. So I'll come to about here. I'll bring my thread forward because I haven't got any thread on the shank there, like so. I'm going to hollow this and put it down tight. So rather than spreading it round, I'm laying it on top. I'm taking my other bucktail, which I've dropped on the floor. I'm taking fibres nearer the base, nice soft airy fibres. I want a bit of air in the head because I don't want that head to dip too quick. So a bit of air in there helps with that, counteracts the gluing. Just give those ends a bit of a taper, because sometimes they're a bit straight. We don't want all that length, so we're looking to about here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to spin this round. I'm going to start tying down straight away. Pretty much know I've got the right volume here in terms of spreading it around. It does it automatically for you because it's quite an easy hair to hollow. I'm just going to push that back with my push tool and then start building that down in front. I haven't left myself a great deal of space, but we don't need too much, and we actually use the eye to our advantage here. So if you leave too much space, you don't get that much width in the head. And if you lose too little, it starts getting a bit cramped. So we go, that's about right. So we can use some more grey yak. Now this is quite an important bit now, because the final, after the yak, we use some nayat. Now if you're using long nayat over this headpiece here, what you'll find sometimes, depends of what rig you use and what clips and stuff, I've noticed it is very often the nayat will wrap around the hook. And that's so annoying. So we're going to use a bit of yak tail to stiffen up over the bucktail to prevent the nayat from wrapping around, because I'd like to use a longer piece of nayat just to, aesthetically it looks nicer. So I'm just blending some black yak and some silver grey yak together, and I want to just create that stiffness, because the bucktail alone doesn't quite do it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's just reassurance. So put a few wraps over, and I'm pulling that back now without making a hash of it. It's quite tight. There you go. I've got a stray hair in here. I'm going to get rid of that. Go away. Now you could put some glue on this now. In fact, I'm going to. Like that. And next is, we need some nayat. Now I have big patches of nayat because I get through it very, very quickly. So for the head, I'm using silver grey and black blend. So experiment with colours, buy a few colours and mix them together. Greys you can darken quite quickly with black or another dark grey. So I want a bit more black than that. So I'm showing all the blending as well. So I've done no prep at all for this fly. So what I always do, I always like to add a little bit of Forest Blaze Angelina fibre, which is like a green and bronze colour. Just gives a nice twist in terms of the colours and different lights. So I'm just going to blend that with my hand. Like so, it's properly blended, the black's properly blended with the grey, so there's no streaks. And then take your comb and get rid of those under fibres because they're no good for this fly. And any super long ones, what I tend to do now, just give it a little trim because it's a bit long. Don't want it too long because I don't want it to foul. There we go. Look, quite sparse amount now, but they will do. Tie over a few wraps over the glue. Make sure that's covered well. Now we're going to take some white. I want a bit more white than the grey because I like to have a little bit more underneath the fly. Otherwise you get a bit of a top heavy looking fly, and then I think the swim's better if there's a little bit more underneath. But obviously be careful you don't put too much because you don't want to impede the hook. So again, I'm just taking some silver Angelina fibre or pearl or whatever it is. And I'm just mixing it through the nayat, some white nayat, which I've cut in half. You can cut nayat because all the hairs are the same length, same thickness. So don't forget that. Don't feel I have to use the exact amount that's on the patch. You can trim it, do whatever you want with it. So before we put that down, we're going to add some glue. Like so. And we'll tie that down 55-45. Just make sure we've got good coverage underneath. Like that. Now we're going to take the top, so I'll do this slightly differently now to maybe what you've seen before, just to finish these heads, because that's probably the hardest bit. I'm wrapping that back, and I'm going to bring the thread 2 or 3 times to lock the white in underneath, and I want to spread it. Well, you can see that. And I'm going to use my thumb to push that back. If we get any wild ones, we can cut them out. And we'll lock that in. And then we're very close to the eye, but we're using the eye to dam the head, so it forces those materials back. So you just want to spend a bit of time getting this right. Look at the angles or what you want, because flies have a habit of flaring after they've been wet as well. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. There you go. So that's what I'm looking for. Full turn whip finish. It's usually enough time we've glued it as well. Lock down, cut. Just bring your comb through it. So the nayat just softens the yak on top. There's not much of it in there, hardly anything. It also provides a key for the eyes. You'll find putting on eyes a lot easier over nayat. That's one of the main reasons. And of course it's durable as well, it doesn't fuzz up. So that's the fly without the eyes. So this is how to soak in water. I like to soak it as soon as I tied it before I did the eyes. Don't know why, it's just something I've always done. So I'm going to put some eyes on now. Now we're looking for smallish eyes. What I started doing is I started using smaller eyes now. Just, tastes change over time. You'll see if you've watched all my videos, you'll know my tastes have changed. But I just find small eyes are starting to appeal to me more than bigger eyes. Strange. And I also put them a little bit further back. Now, it could be other people's influences, I don't know. It might be. I might have seen something, I thought, well, that looks nice, and then did it myself, then didn't like it, and then liked it. It's usually how it goes. But anyway, so we're using 7mm flat eyes. Now you will notice that I've always used flat eyes now, because they just don't fall off. And, you know, if they get damaged, you can just stick another one on top, or pull it off gently and just stick another one. But I would really recommend that folks start using them rather than the 3D, because they don't, 3Ds have a habit of coming off their backing an awful lot. Doesn't matter what brand, they just don't seem to last. And we're talking Pike here, and there's nothing more frustrating than having an eye fall off when you're fishing a fly that's working well. So, and also that there's less weight if you add flat eyes. You don't get so much of a nosedive. To think about that. And also they're cheaper. So yeah, you know, you can get quite a few for quite a small amount of money. So just the only problem with flat eyes, there's not many shops willing to sell them because they don't make any money, for one. And you know, there ain't much that doesn't beat just a standard silver and black, to be honest with you. You know, eyes aren't super essential, but some folks swear by them and want them on their fly, but you know, they don't have to be super realistic and flashy. You know, it's nice to have maybe some resemblance of matching the fisheye that you're trying to replicate. Oh, I'm getting carried away here, because I need, this fly is supposed to have red eyes, and I'm too busy nattering and putting the wrong colour eyes on it. So now I need to go and find my 7mm red, if I've got 7mm red. Right, start again. Making a roll. Dog's dinner of this. Right, 7mm flat eyes. Got to be 7, can't be 8, can't be 6, it's got to be 7. Let's just lay that on top. They're very thin, these flat eyes, but to be honest, I don't think it really matters too much. And what I do is take the fly out now, have a look at it. Make sure it's not skew-if. So if you have the fly at skew-if in the water, look down at the hook points and look at the angles. That's, you know, your fly will turn to the side and won't go to the other side. Not that they're jerk flies, but you know what I mean. They'll fish wonky and they could spin. So you need to make sure that those eyes are straight. It's the hardest bit. It really is. I spent a long time trying to get this right. Been through lots of different ways of tying these eyes on. I think I'm finally probably done full circle, because I used to use these a long time ago. So when that dries, what we tend to do is I just put a bit of marker on the outside, and then I'll take some Gorilla Glue and I'll just coat the eyes around the nose, and I'll spin it in my drying wheel like that. I think I showed you how to do that on the last few videos, so if you want to go and, it's like watching paint dry really, if you want to go and see me do that, you can go and see me do that. on those, but I'm not going to show it here. It's supposed to be a quick video. And that's it. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll try and do another one soon. Cheerio. Bye.